Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, global population, South here. Right, first of all, I know I said I was going to debunk Tartaria in this episode, but someone suggested to me that it might get a bit confusing with interjecting that kind of thing with what is already a very confusing subject for some people. So I thought I'd just do a series of side notes episodes alongside these and debunking as we go. That way you can watch either and at any time, and it won't divert attention away from what is already a very complex sort of situation, shall we say. Anyway, with that in mind, let's continue on with Hypoboria. So, one of the more confusing aspects for some people is the idea of conscious plasma, of plasma being conscious, but most of all, plasma being sentient, and our interactions with these kind of plasma beings being the basis for our religions, and the gods that we had in the ancient world that supposedly walked among us were in fact human. People can't marry the two together, with most people considering them as aliens instead, rather than actual advanced human beings. The thing is though, plasma beings and also dark matter beings actually marry both of those ideas together. So it's looking more likely that the truth is actually a combination of the two. They're both off-world and very advanced ancient human beings. What got me onto this was I've been having a conversation with a guy whose channel's called Our True History, who, like myself, he's been at this a long time, very evidence-based, very much meticulous in what he does, and a lot of the time we agree a great deal. We both come to the same conclusions about a lot of stuff to do with this ancient history, but the one place where we disagree, and we're on totally opposite sides of the spectrum, is he believes that the Anunnaki, or our ancient gods, were alien, off-world aliens. I lean more towards them being ancient human, yeah, a lost sort of very, very technologically advanced ancient race of humans, ancient civilization. The thing is, the evidence, when you look at it, both will take you both ways, either way, and actually backs up both sort of ideas, even though they're opposites, yeah. And it's probably why we've both been led down completely different sort of avenues with that, in that regard. But this is when you're considering life to be a more materialistic sort of thing, yeah. We consider life as flesh and blood, yeah. We're alive. extra-life, aliens, biological. Yeah? But since at least the 1920s, 30s, when we started messing around with nuclear physics, it started to become clear to a great many scientists like Richard Schauberger, Edward Teller, Oppenheimer, that were all working with the plasma field. Even my great uncle, Arthur Charles, he was another one. It started to become very clear that the plasmas they were working with seemed to be conscious, or at least they gave the appearance of that, a very strong sort of indication, a strong indication of some sort of intelligence. You see, a famous saying by, I mentioned it last time, but Edward Teller very, very famously said when asked about why his experiments were taking so long to get done, he said, well, we've got to wait for the plasma to want to do it. You see, you could do an experiment with this plasma, and you'll do it first time. You do exactly the same experiment again, to repeat it, just to check, and he won't do it. And he'll keep not doing it until it feels like it. And then, all of a sudden, 3 or 4 times down the line, he'll suddenly do it again. And it's this that began the sort of the inclination that maybe there is some sort of deliberate action behind it, some sort of intelligence, that plasma itself could be a form of life. Now, obviously these experiments continued on all the way through the 20th century, and it wasn't until about, I think it was 1980s, 1990s, when it was discovered that there was 2 huge clouds of plasma heading towards Earth. Massive things coming from the outer solar system and moving closer and closer still. But they moved in a way that was deliberate, like there was intent behind it, especially when they stopped either side of the Earth, between us and the Moon. They also appear to face the Earth, and that it's what you could call it, I suppose, its largest side was facing the Earth. Yeah, and with both of them, it still is to this day. In fact, some of the most studied sort of phenomena in our solar system at the moment. Because strange things happen with it. They're a hive of activity, they really are. Certain situations happen on Earth, and all of a sudden, you fire up a lot of electrical activity, which is one of the main components of plasma, is electricity. But as soon as something like that happens, all of a sudden, globules come off, head towards Earth, and then go back to the clouds. Almost as if they're monitoring us. In fact, when they turn space-based telescopes and space-based sort of instrumentation towards them, these things watch them. Well, these things watch us watching them. Yeah, like curious. Yeah, they have a sort of an inquisitive nature to them, which is very bizarre. These things are called Kordylewski clouds. You can find plenty of information on them. In fact, some of it you've probably seen in the background now. But it's whilst trying to sort of disprove my idea that our ancient gods were ancient humans, okay, just to see if it actually stood up, that I start getting more and more drawn towards ancient plasma beings, dark matter entities, stuff like that. Because the best way to prove the hypothesis, yeah, or just to get it clear in your head, is to actually try and disprove it yourself. And seeing as my idea is sort of the newer idea against our True History channel's sort of work, I thought, right, I'll test mine. One thing I noticed, one thing I found out was I'm not wrong, but neither is he. Like I said, both sets of evidence, like both ideas, can be backed up by exactly the same evidence because it points both ways. So how's that possible? The funny thing about plasma, I mentioned this last time as well, along with changing colour, seemingly at will, it can change its texture, change its shape. It can even give itself a metallic sheen. Yeah, it can look like a UFO, look like a solid sort of piece of metal in the sky. But it's not. It's just electrified sort of atoms, particles. It's both physical and non-physical at the same time. It's bizarre stuff, this plasma. It's one of the things that scientists find very difficult to explain with our usual physics, which is why most people that study plasma are actually conscious as scientists. People such as Roger Penrose or Rupert Sheldrake, Nassim Harriman, Claude Swanson, who's probably one of the leaders in that field, and Tom Campbell was another consciousness scientist. Most astrophysicists and physicists and nuclear physicists that are actively trying to understand plasma end up moving into the consciousness sciences and have created basically consciousness physics as a field. And where these are making leaps and bounds in discoveries, materialistic physics is stagnant. Anyway, as I was looking into this, that I started, like I said, getting drawn to plasma beings, the idea of plasma gods. You see, another thing that's been discovered by, like in the field of consciousness science, is the fact that our soul, what we call a soul or a spirit, is very likely the same kind of plasma. Yeah, we are infused with a plasma core, and when we die, when we lose 20 grams or 25, is it 25? I think it's 20 or 25 grams that we lose instantly, as if something has left the body, and it has. Yeah, it's plasma. So in much the same way that we are still conscious in this plasma state, so too are these clouds. They hold a very old, very defined and individual consciousness. See, both of these clouds have very different character traits. Almost like the people. Yeah? They act differently. They almost have a personality. Which is baffling. Baffles scientists because that shouldn't happen. The plasma, the electricity, how the hell do you have personality? Yeah? That doesn't exist in their world. It's because we're not in their world. As a result, it makes that sort of plasma, it makes them being able to take over our, or be absorbed into our bodies very easily. Very easily. And once you start looking at the ancient rituals and ceremonies involved with kingship, along with the idea that that ruler then becomes the physical embodiment of that particular brand of God for that civilization. In every single culture, every single civilization, ancient civilization, all of them believed that their ruler was their God in physical form. Things begin to take a different sort of slant once you realise that plasma is sentient and we are plasma. See, one of the things that really didn't sort of gel with me, particularly with the myth of the Anunnaki, was one, Nibiru being an actual planetary body, but we'll get to that in a minute. Another one was the extremely long lifespans, extremely long. Some of them, like hundreds of thousands of years, yeah, as a rule. Now, for a flesh and blood sort of being, right, you can call genetic tampering or whatever you want, yeah, for these long lifespans, but not that long. All flesh decays. Don't matter how much you mess with it. Yeah? In fact, the more you mess with it, the less effective those genes get. So you can only do so much. So that never really sort of sat with me. And then it started occurring to me that what if the reason why they ruled so long, or were said to rule so long, was that each ruler was imbued with that same plasma entity. Each time one died, the entity would come out of that one ruler into another. And continue on. Even though it had a different face, it still had the same character traits, still had the same personality. Essentially, it's still the same person. And to the ancient peoples, that would have been the case. Even though it looked different, it still acted the same. Came across as the same. So effectively, it was the same person, same being. See where I'm going? So that answered that. Right, and then even the gods going mad, yeah, the wars that they had and everything else, yeah, the hate they had towards each other and towards, that can be explained as well by these plasma beings polar opposite, that being the dark or antimatter being / entity, yeah, of which Ahriman is one of them. That we discussed before. So with that out of the way, right, which kind of explained quite well through plasma beings, I thought. Nibiru, that was another problem that I had, especially with the alien god idea. You see, what I said about Nibiru is it for 3,600 years of its orbit, right? That's how long it takes to get around the sun, right? And it swings really close into the sun and then back out, yeah? In an elliptical orbit outside the Oort cloud and then back in, right? This is what's said about it all the time. And astronomers have been looking for it for a good few decades. Unsuccessfully, I might add. Every planetary body that they found either within the Oort cloud or has been too small, yeah, and just battered by cometary debris on the outskirts. Or when they did find planetary bodies that could have been closer, well, that were closest they could find. Their orbits were 20,000 years and they never came towards Earth. Because of this, it's led me to one conclusion: Nibiru doesn't exist, not in that way. But the Anunnaki still talked about it, and they still told us about it. Now, for a long while, I basically assumed that it was this ancient civilization or a remnant of them either lying to us about where they came from, or it was us that mistook where they came from. Yeah, we missed it. We misunderstood something they said. And I started learning about this Kordylewski Plasma. You see, they just trundled out from behind the rock cloud, headed straight towards us, like I said, and sat either side of the Earth. Now remember, these are pure consciousness, yeah? Intelligent, sentient, very possibly been here before. Now this is just spitballing, right? Pure spitball. Because I've no way of proving this yet. I'm close. What if one of those clouds contains the consciousness of Enlil, the other cloud contains the consciousness of Enki, and both of them together, and they be with. This is why we can't find it, because we're not looking for the right thing. It's not a planet as we would think. Yeah? We're using a materialistic viewpoint to essentially explain an esoteric phenomenon. See, they're out there for a reason. Yeah? Then travelling to the position they're in at the minute, carry a lot of intent. That much all scientists can agree on. The way the electricity is firing all around them as well, all the way around those clouds, has caused even mainstream physicists to turn around and say it's like super brains. Everyone's been expecting this sort of great cataclysm from Nibiru to befall the Earth, or for it to return in some way, shape or form. And again, expecting a planetary body. I think they were right, yeah. But it has returned. It's what we're studying right now. It's those clouds. The Anunnaki gods have returned. They're in those clouds. Just these clouds alone, right? Once you look at all the documentation, all the papers written on them, the way that scientists talk about them, the characteristics, the individualistic nature of each of them, like I said, their own personality type almost. This is both the proof that the Anunnaki were alien, or what we would call alien support. We'd consider it alien. But I mainly mean that as in the off world. But they're also an ancient race of humans. those clouds explain how it is both. So, what does that mean then? Well, and when was first contact? Hypoboria was the first contact. The idea that the Middle East was where civilization began is wrong. Out of Africa is wrong, especially when you're talking about Caucasian people. Even one of the main proponents of it in the 70s, yeah, and all the way through to the 90s, about out of Africa theory, has disproved his own theory. White and black people are the same genus, but separate species. We both came out of separate evolutionary trees. That is now becoming more and more established fact. We came from the far north. Russia, the Russia area, the Kola area, Kola Peninsula area, and the Ural Mountains, up that end. And from what I can gather, roughly around 600,000 years ago is when we started moving. Judging by the remains that have been found in Spain and Greece, several other nations. But we had first contact with them, with these plasma beings. Or rather, we were the first to allow them to be absorbed inside us, yeah, to take control of us. Which is why all descriptions of the Anunnaki are blonde-haired, either blue, green, or aquamarine coloured eyes, white skin. Because that's how the race of people that they were residing inside looked. Like I said, something went wrong, drastically wrong. And I believe the beginnings of it was in Hypoboria and continued on when they moved to Doggerland. Pardon me. And then its culmination occurred in Errata, in the Black Sea Basin, after Doggerland, the English Channel filled up. And this was very, like I said before as well, what went wrong was caused by us trying to make contact with these plasma beings through sorcery and magic. It's coding something darker, naturally. But everything in our religions, from the burning bush to the depictions of angelic beings, to like the unusual way that they look, to the chariots in the sky that Joshua saw, the list goes on, can all be explained by these plasma beings. And what happened there in Hypoboria and Doggerland. Like I said, all of this happened long before the lunar dryas, yeah, way before the lunar dryas even ever occurred. Apart from the full collapse of Arata was around 8,000, between 8 and 12,000 years ago, so just on the cusp. Could have even been caused by them. And they met the Ube people not long after that. The Ube immediately assumed God. Ube, the culture that created those very strange looking lizard-like human statue-like beings that are depicted in statues, little figurines, look like lizards. Or snakes, should I say, serpents, but it doesn't actually mean that they were serpent beings. Serpents are a universal sort of symbol across the board as a symbol of wisdom and rejuvenation, or immortality in a way. And in this regard, it's pretty much on the nose. It describes these people perfectly. Each time they continue their life by shedding one skin and taking on another. See how this works? Now, again, this is still something that's pretty raw at the moment. Plasma beings and dark matter beings are something I've known about for a long while. I've just never really completely married the two together. Our ancient history and ancient gods with ancient humans and plasma beings, but everything so far is pointing towards that. So, when you look up at the night sky tonight, look to your left, look to your right, say, hello Linky, hello Lenro, welcome home.